Why the hell was Peter Parker on a skateboard? They said that they want to make Peter Parker out to be really, really smart in this movie. But the thing is, there's only 2 points in the entire film when they actually show his scienciness coming out. 1, when he completely fixes the new formula, and 2, when he makes the web shooters. That's all. Oh, you really wanted to get away from the whole organic web shooters and kind of bring out Peter's intelligence. Really? Well then make him go through everything step by step instead of just having one single image of him going like this. And then something exploding in his face. The acting is astonishingly good, which is fantastic. Garfield does a really good job as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. But in my head, he's not exactly nerdy enough for my liking. I mean, as soon as I saw him with a skateboard, it all kind of went downhill from there. We all know that once comic books get adapted into movies, everything's going to be changed. But he doesn't have a skateboard. It doesn't make any sense. Let's see, what else really irked me? Every time that Doc Connors changed into the Lizard, he was always wearing a lab coat. You'd see him running around the place as the Lizard with a tattered lab coat on him for a couple of seconds, and then he'll rip it off him. Okay, that's okay, but it then shows a scene of him injecting himself while wearing a lab coat, and then spazzing out and becoming the Lizard. Surely he knows, surely, because he's coherent when he is the Lizard, and he knows that he becomes the Lizard, surely he'd know that he ruins all his lab coats. I counted 4 tattered, ruined lab coats throughout the entire film. Where does he get all these lab coats from? And they all have Oscorp written on them. But he's no longer part of Oscorp. So what I'm thinking is, when he gets fired, he just goes, fine, whatever, and just takes an armful of all these lab coats with the Oscorp name on the back of them. It makes no sense. I mean, in their heads, they're probably thinking, oh, he's in a lab coat in the cartoon. Everybody watched the cartoon. Let's put him in a lab coat. But then let's have him rip it off. And then let's have him do it again in a lab coat. And then have him rip it off again. But then let's have him in a lab coat. Have him get shot in the lab coat. Then make him rip it off. Genius! As everybody knows, Spider-Man is a wisecracker. So, a wisecracker? Sounds like the smartest racist in the world. The humor in this movie was very good. Surprisingly. Spider-Man is a wisecracker, as everybody knows. And it was actually good to, have some good jokes. And the fight scenes were just amazing. They were brilliantly choreographed, and they melded live action and CG so well. Every time I see live action being melded with CG in a fight scene or a movement scene of any kind, I always think back to Daredevil. You know the part in Daredevil when he's climbing up onto the organ at the end doing all his jumps and flips? I always think back to then and just say, we've come far. Everything seemed really rushed. In the first hour, this is all the shit that happens in the first hour. They try and cram in as much as physically possible in the first hour, which upsets me, but I get it because they wanted to redo the origin story to include Peter's parents and eventually bring in shit, yada 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 yada. But you can't tie all that shit in an entire hour and expect people not to be overwhelmed and to notice that that's exactly what you did. I want to just point out one little thing here in the middle of this video, if you don't mind, of course. The phrase, with great power comes great responsibility, the phrase that Spider-Man is built on, is not said once in the film. Oh, and also, Stan Lee's little cameo in the film, he said it himself in an interview, it's his favourite, and it's my favourite too. It is brilliant. Stan Lee, you are a god among men. We love you so much. You are fantastic. Right, now listen to this. This is how quickly everything happens. I'm gonna get comfortable if you don't mind. This is how quickly everything happens in the film. We all know that Spider-Man, when he first got his powers, decided to become a wrestler, right? That's why he had the costume, that's why he has the mask, that's why he has everything. Okay, we all know this. This is a thing. This is a thing that we all know here. Peter finds his dad's briefcase, sees that there's a formula in it that's unfinished. He finishes the formula. Then he goes up to Dr. Connors and says, hey, I finished this formula that you and my dad were working on years and years ago. And then they work on it together on the same night that Peter's supposed to go and pick up his Aunt May from somewhere. But because he's too busy working on this thing, he doesn't go and pick her up. So he comes home And then there's Martin Sheen there sitting on the porch telling you gotta go inside and apologise to your Aunt May. And Peter goes, oh fudge, I knew I was supposed to do something. And yet I can't just tell him that I was working on this new formula to help save the entire fucking world. But no. Anyway, so he goes inside and he's talking to her. He's like, oh, really sorry, Aunt May. Martin Sheen comes in and goes, hey, no, you're a butt. You are a butt. Butt. And then the two of them have a big fight. Peter storms off. And then 2 seconds later, after Peter runs out the door, he walks out the door. He doesn't even run. He walks out the door. And 2 seconds later, Ben just goes, and walks after him. And as soon as he leaves the door, he starts yelling, Peter, 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 Peter. And it's about 15 steps away. Like, how far can you get in 15 seconds? Not very far, actually. I'm pretty lazy. So what happens then is Peter's off, and he goes into a shop, and he picks up a thing of chocolate milk. And he goes, oh, I don't have enough money to pay for this. I'm 2 cents short or something like that. And the shopkeeper's being a butthole to him. And he goes, oh, it's not our policy. You got to give us the full amount. And then the guy behind Peter in the queue ends up robbing the place and just hands him the chocolate milk. And then he runs away, and then the shopkeeper comes out after him, and he goes, hey kid, little help here. And Peter just goes, it's not my policy, and then walks away. And then within the space of 11 seconds, Ben tackles down this robber, and because Ben's just around the corner, 2 seconds away from Peter, because he followed Peter 2 seconds out the door and still called Peter, 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 and couldn't find him. So then Ben grabs the gun, and then the two of them are wrestling away, and then he accidentally gets shot by the robber. So as he dies on the ground, Peter just kind of goes, oh, that was a gunshot. I better go over and check. Runs over. Oh, Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben? No! And there's like 4.5 seconds of Peter just going, eh. You can say what you want about Tobey Maguire's performance in Spider-Man and everything else. I mean, I like him as a person. I just didn't like him as Spider-Man. I like him as Peter Parker. He did a really great Peter Parker. That's a story for another time. But the moment when Uncle Ben is killed and Peter is there with him is one of the saddest moments in movie history. Apart from this, it's just one of the saddest moments ever because there's just so much emotion in Peter's performance but in this movie, no. I'm sorry, Andrew Garfield, but you cannot show emotion at all. I'm sorry, buddy, but I didn't like it. And then it just ends. It just ends. What? So Peter goes home and talks to Aunt May. This is all still the one scene, by the way. Peter goes home and talks to Aunt May, and the cops are there, and they go, do you know this person? No, I have no idea. Hey, can I have that picture? Okay. Then he says he's also got a tattoo on his left wrist. So Peter goes, oh, okay, cheers. Awesome. I'll look into that. So then Peter puts on a hoodie and patrols the streets of New York City, looking for this guy with blonde hair and sunglasses and a tattoo on his wrist. And what happens is he runs into a bunch of gangs, he fights them away, and then he eventually runs into a big group of people. And they chase him, beats up a couple of them, and then they chase him to a rooftop. Then he falls through an old shoddy roof, and then lands in a wrestling ring. And then what happened is, this is the part that really pissed me off. This is how I noticed how it all clicked in my head that everything was moving so fast. He falls down, he hits the ring, and he's kind of lying there on the ground. And then the guy just says, he yells down from the roof, I've seen your face, I will find you. And then Peter turns his head and sees a bunch of pictures of like luchadors with their masks on. And then 2 seconds after that, he's in his room making a mask. There was no build-up, there was no setup for anything, there was no kind of like, oh, I've seen your face, I can find you, and then Peter maybe forgetting about it and then being in class the next day and then seeing one of them and they chase him or something and he disappears and he goes, oh, I better put on a mask. But no, it's just, I can see your face, and then, okay, I'll put on a mask then. But again, as I say, that's only the first half of the movie. The second half of the movie is kind of more action-orientated. Once he puts on the entire suit, it's action-orientated, and it is amazing. I gotta say, Sony Pictures do fantastic visuals. It just looked brilliant. Lizard, I wasn't too happy about, but nobody was once they found out he didn't have the elongated snout. But other than that, it was fine. I mean, he was massive, and he was against a little tiny Spider-Man, so the contrast was kind of good. Fight scenes were amazing. So much stuff happens at the one time because they made him so athletic and so wiry and so all over the place in his fighting that actually felt like watching an actual, a comic come to life. So what I'm planning on doing is once it comes out on DVD, I'm going to get it and go through each fight scene frame by frame to just figure out what the hell happened. One thing that also kind of got to me, Just a little tiny, it's just a little tiny thing. And it's nothing major. No discrepancy on the movie itself. But since they were using proper web shooters and he was using the cartridges, I was hoping for a moment when he'd run out. Just a little 4-second thing of, oh no, I've just run out of cartridges. I better just reload and show him actually reloading the web shooters, because that could have extended more into science and everything else. Whew. Okay, I'm done for now. If this has been too long for you, I'm sorry. But I've been talking about this movie for days now. If necessary, I will put up a second one of me just constantly bitching about everything that I hated about the film. But all in all, it's a good movie. I give it, I don't know, 4 Spider Stees out of 5, I suppose. It's highly recommended. Go see this movie because it was surprisingly well done. Even for a reboot of a series that only ended, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? But yeah, it was pretty well done. So, good job. Okay, my name has been Steve. Thank you very much for joining me. Come back next time when I've got skits and everything else to go up. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time, and let me know in the comment section below if you've seen the movie. If you have, fantastic. Let's have a discussion about it. I can bitch more to you. If not, go out and see it. I recommend it. I really do. But don't expect it to be mind-blowing. It's above average-ish. I have my issues with it, as I say, but all in all, it was a pretty good film. So, thanks for watching. Bye now.